Let's do a highly requested PPP funding and top questions update. Many of you have asked about my PPP, so let's cover it. So we're going to talk about how the new funding stands, where exactly we're at with that, how much funding is left with this program. If you just applied, I know there's a lot of people who applied in the last week or two, and they're kind of sitting there wondering, am I actually going to receive funding? And then there's another group of people who applied a while ago, and maybe there was an issue on your application, or it's just taking longer than expected, and you want to make sure that there's going to be funding. And there's actually some good news here. We're actually have some good news with the Paycheck Protection Program today. We're also going to talk about forgiveness a little bit and cover some top questions that I'm still seeing regularly that I think are worth addressing and worth just quelling some of the fears and the concerns with this program. So we're going to start out with the not so great news, and then we're going to get into some better news and then answer some questions. So first off, the not so great news, the new funding bill. As of right now, there is still no major movement towards getting more paycheck protection funding allocated and approved in Congress. We do have the bill that would bump up retroactive loans from net income to gross income, which would be a very positive change and solves a major issue that just simply doesn't make sense. Those who were most on top of it are getting the smallest loans. It doesn't make sense. It would also be nice that that bill allows partnerships to then get the gross income calculations instead of just net income, because that's another glaring issue where if you're in a partnership, it doesn't quite work out. So that bill would address that. However, the problem with that bill is that it doesn't provide any additional funding, so it would just squeeze the funding that we have left even more and add some more constraints. And it doesn't solve the issue that lenders would have to reprocess loans, and more money would have to go to lenders to process these loans. So it kind of helps, but it also isn't perfect. So you would need a bill that both combines the retroactivity and new funding for loans once the funding runs out. You can still help the grassroots movement to try and get more funding here by simply contacting a local representative of yours. If you want to do it a real simple way, you can do so by texting the word RESIST, R-E-S-I-S-T, to 50409, and it'll connect you directly with a representative. You can literally text a message and it'll email your representative, and you can say, hey, let's get some more funding for the Paycheck Protection Program. How about that? So into the good news. Many people have been funded with their PPP loans. Every day I'm receiving so many messages that just are absolutely, heartwarming, for lack of a better phrase. There are people who are like, I applied because I saw one of your videos. I was scared about this program, but I applied. I didn't believe this was real. And now I have 15 grand in my account, or whatever the individual situation is. More people every single day are getting funding both for their round 1 and round 2 PPP loans. But the fight is not over yet. That's why I am still here, still posting videos and addressing as many questions as possible. Also, if you're stuck in some various spot on your PPP loan, I highly encourage you to join our Discord. I'll have it linked down in the description. There are tons of people there who are super helpful and knowledgeable regarding the Paycheck Protection Program. Chances are, if you have a question, it's already been addressed, and there are people who can help you there in that Discord. I highly recommend joining the Discord. There's also other cool stuff in the Discord as well. But with the round 2 funding, so the round 2, PPP round 2, had $813.5 billion in funding. I just have that on the top of my head at this point. It's ridiculous. $813.5 billion in total funding in round 2. Last week, there was $769.5 billion that was dispersed of that. So that left about $44 billion to go to the remaining loans, which is about 15-ish% of the total funding left to send out to loans. Now, this week, we have a report that just came out from the SBA. Let's pull it up, take a look at it. This report just came out on the 25th, and this shows that $770.7 billion has been dispersed, so that leaves about $42.8 billion left. Now, it doesn't seem 100% accurate to me, because how do they only spend $2 billion in an entire week? But that's the numbers that they're reporting right now. If that is accurate, the funding runway is probably a lot longer than what they're saying of mid-May. They're saying that funding should last through mid-May. But I did some calculations here. This is very helpful, by the way. I'll have this link down in the description if you want just some additional information about funding and states and loan sizes and things like that. But I did some calculations here on how many loans are left to be funded. So we can see here the overall average loan size is $48,000. And I suspect in the last month, it's actually much lower because now more and more people who are 1040 Schedule C workers, no employees, gig workers, things like that are applying. Also, if you have not yet applied, apply as soon as possible. It's not too late, but you want to apply ASAP. You can get funding relatively quickly if there's no issues on your loan. There's a lender linked in the description if you need one. Otherwise, any SBA lender works, but just apply as soon as possible. So the average loan size overall is $48,000. So if we take $48,000 as the average loan size, and there's $40 billion in funding left. We're just going to be conservative, say there's $40 billion in funding left. We take $40 billion, divide it by 48,000, the average loan size. That comes out to 833,333 more loans that are available at the average loan size. Now, once I did those calculations, I felt a lot better about this because that's a sizable percentage of all the businesses who have applied. So that means 833,000 more businesses will be funded that have yet to be funded. And this made me kind of, when I did the calculations, it's good to do math sometimes because math sometimes makes you a little bit happy. You know, most of the time math makes you a little angry. This time math makes you a little happy. So I did these calculations and I was like, okay, almost 1 million businesses will still get this funding. That's very exciting. And if we put in perspective, $40 billion isn't a lot when you compare it to $1 trillion, which is pretty much the total allocated PPP funding, but it is a lot just in regards to just about everything else. I mean, the total EIDL grant program in the beginning was $20 billion, so it's still double that. So 833,000 more businesses will still be funded, and that's if there's no additional funding allocated, which I still think that there's a more than 50% chance that that'll happen, but I still think you should apply ASAP. So because of this, I believe funding is going to last a little bit longer than expected, potentially even to the end of the current apply date, which is the end of May. But again, apply as soon as possible. But I'm optimistic about this. I think a lot of people are going to be funded even who don't expect to be funded. So let's talk about some application tips and questions that I'm still receiving regarding the Paycheck Protection Program. I think it could be helpful. First one, I actually haven't said this on a video yet. Check your Docusigns. I've now heard that it's pretty easy to miss a Docusign, miss signing a Docusign. So if you're still like waiting for funding, something's processing, just go through your emails real quick, click on all your Docusigns, make sure they are actually signed because if they're not signed, you're not going to get funding. So just do that real quick. It's going to take a couple minutes. Check your Docusign. That could be huge. Next, a lot of people are still saying that they're on the sign and hold status. Generally, this is actually a good problem to run into because how it works is you received your first round PPP funding. This is through Womply, by the way, if you applied through Womply and you're seeing the sign and hold status. You received your first round PPP funding. You get sent the promissory note for your second round. You sign it, sends it off to them, and then you see the sign and hold status. And you're kind of like, I've been in sign and hold for a while. Now, the reason it's on hold is because they are waiting to send the information to the SBA for your own good. The reason for that is the SBA has all sorts of error codes, and the last thing you want is the SBA thinking that you're trying to fraudulently get multiple loans. So they're just holding off in this case to make sure that your first application is coded properly before they send in the second application. So if you're in that status, chances are it's a good sign. You just have to wait a little bit longer to get funding. Now, this leads me to the next question that I'm receiving a lot about the covered period. Nowhere in the SBA documentation does it say you have to wait 8 weeks for the covered period. It's up to your lender. Now, most lenders who are still accepting applications are allowing you to apply for the second round sooner than 8 weeks after the first round. Also, a lot of people are asking, is this going to affect forgiveness if you receive your second draw sooner than 8 weeks after your first draw? And the answer is no, it's not going to affect your forgiveness. You're going to be good to go. Also, with forgiveness, remember, you have 10 months until after your covered period to apply for forgiveness. So there's no rush with forgiveness. A lot of people are still asking forgiveness questions. I did a huge breakdown of every question you could possibly have about forgiveness. I will link that above. I highly recommend watching that if you have a PPP loan because it'll quell any fear you have with PPP forgiveness. Now, another thing I want you to check out is take a look at your PPP Fastlane account and just verify this for me. If you're still running into issues, just click Update Application here and go through these. Make sure all your information is correct. Your address, your social security number, your bank account information, just make sure that is all accurate and 100% so you're not going to run into any issues with your loan. And then one more thing on the forgiveness end, this is something I wanted to highlight. These are the PPP loans that have already been forgiven. $227 billion. And we can see here, amount not forgiven, less than $1 billion. And these people are people who had issues like they had a reduction in payroll or they spent it on the wrong things. Most people, especially if you don't have employees, is extremely simple. Do not really have to worry about forgiveness or not receiving forgiveness. Here's $227 billion already forgiven, and most people don't even have to apply for forgiveness yet. So this highlights that the money is being given away. I just want to say one last time that it's not as big of a concern as you might think it is. This program, I know, seems too good to be true in a lot of aspects, but it's made to give money to small businesses. So that's going to do it for today. Check out the links in the description for some various good offers, like getting some free stocks, some free crypto, other cool stuff down there. You can sign up for, I have a YouTube course that's coming out very soon that I'm very excited about. I've been working on it for a long time. It's going to be like 80 videos, like 9 hours worth of content on how I've built my YouTube channel. You can sign up down below to be notified once that comes out. I'm really excited about it. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.